This is Adjuster Stories, brought to you by Adjuster TV and Veteran Adjusting School with your host, Guy Grant.
I was very appreciative of the opportunity to go to attend VOS. I had kind of heard about it in the past, and it was one of those that I thought it sounded interesting. And then through a bunch of life changes, the opportunity presented itself.
Right.
And I got to attend. And I've got a background, a lot of construction type stuff. I owned an excavation company for a little while. And so I had some general knowledge, but a lot of my knowledge of how insurance gets involved in all that did not exist. And so being able to attend a formal class and get to use Xactimate from soup to nuts, and then put it all into play and learn how not only things are built, but how the insurance industry wants to have that represented to them for cost and replacement and indemnification. That was like, I couldn't imagine going anywhere else and getting an education like that. So it was fantastic.
Right. It's kind of a bummer it's not happening anymore, but that's a big, long story, right?
That's true.
But you made it. That's all that matters, that you made it. Hey,
that's
so
right.
you graduated literally like 3.5 months ago.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. And I remember when you were leaving, you were like, oh, I got to drive to Washington and tear down a building and drive it back to Virginia and build a building and all the rest of that stuff. But how long did it take you to actually start getting a claim?
So there were some forced delays in there, like we were talking about, just trying to get things moved. If I had gone back and started right away, I probably would have gotten claims within probably 2.5 to 3 weeks. That was part of the exit interview, was strategizing about who we wanted to work with, what adjuster firms out there kind of matched personality wise, and then applying to them and refreshing our contacts, making sure that that we are current in there, because those companies are busy and it's easy to get lost. And so you have to remind them that you're there, you're VOS trained, you're ready to go, and then kind of what you're looking for. And I did that. I took that advice as soon as I got back. And then there was a few false starts where some of the companies were like, yeah, we'll have our recruiting manager reach out to you. And then they never did. But, there was only a couple of those. And then the other ones started to call. And I ended up settling on one company that works a lot in North Carolina. And so they started to give me claims, a lot more day claims. There was some in Virginia. They needed help in Virginia, so I was happy to do that. And that's where it started to pick up. And I started to get a little more experience and a little more variety of claims, which kind of stretched, my learning curve a little bit. And then I was off and running, got to it.
Yeah, it's just like I told you guys in the school, but I can tell anybody this, that sending an email, getting on a roster, and then just waiting for them to return how come they never return my email? Well, they get 100 emails a day and 50 of them are from dumbass adjusters.
That's right.
And they got to deal with it, so they don't have that time. And it's really so important for you guys to reach out and to actually make that step, find out, get out of recruiting. Once you're in the recruiting, find out who dispatch is, find out who your area manager is, and then connect with that person and start talking to them. So I found
it valuable to always, like, I was always trying to grow things a little bit. Like, I would get a few more state licenses, or I would start to work on something, and then I would reach back out to the ones that I was the most interested in and let them know that, hey, I got licensed in Georgia and South Carolina. What's the best process to update my profile with you guys? And they'd go, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, reach out to these guys. They would give me a little bit of information, which, again, I wanted them thinking about me while they're, trying to help me get my profile together. Because right about then, a storm hits, and they're like, "Hey, who's that guy that called me yesterday or emailed me yesterday?"
Exactly.
They would they would pull up their yesterday's emails and go, "Yeah, get that guy.
Exactly.
He's Voss trained. Let's send him and see what he does."
Exactly. That's why, so many new adjusters go out and they get 15 licenses and they send them all in at the same time.
Yeah.
And I would say, just like you just said, send in three, wait 3 or 4 days, say, hey, I got a couple extra ones.
Right.
And that gets you into that cycle of actually talking to somebody.
Sure.
And that's where the relationship happens, right?
Yep.
So not this storm since Hurricane Helene, but how many claims do you think you ran prior to Hurricane Helene?
Prior to that, it's probably over 50.
Serious?
Seriously, yeah. I got it where I would get some surges and then it would drop down, and then I would get a few more surges and it would drop down. And I ended up getting a lot of roof claims, like wind damage.
Uh-huh.
But then I started to get a few that were kind of odd. Like I would get re-inspections, and that there was, I think it was just because of how I started writing things, because I
Right.
started trying to explain a little more about why this is a problem. For example, I had one water claim. It was a water leak under a sink in a kitchen. And when I looked at it, the P trap was completely disconnected from the sink. And that's clearly a problem. And it lets, anytime the sink drains, it's going right onto the cabinet and the floor and wrecking everything. And so I was looking at it and thinking, all right, well, you could just reattach that. And so I started kind of manipulating it a little bit, and it would not reattach. Whoever installed it did it wrong. They had maybe like a millimeter or so on that P-trap seal. So all it takes is you bump it with a bottle of Clorox and it pops off.
Right.
That's an improper installation. And so through my pictures, the whole Voss process, I was able to get some really good pictures of that. But then I described to whoever reads it next why this is broken, why this is an improper installation. And I showed them, because the P trap has usually got, a little bit wider area that, the sink
slides through for sure.
It slides down into it, and then the seal makes a good seal, and you can see it in the pictures. And so I annotated that and then wrote it in my picture description that, hey, it's supposed to be down here, but it's not. It's right there. And that's why it's an improper installation. And then I referenced like subrogation. It never actually worked out because it had been too long, but it was something that got them thinking about the fact that, okay, it's clearly wrong. This guy explained why it's wrong. And then they could take that information to their bosses and to whoever asks. And now they look like geniuses because they're able to explain why this needs to be paid and why it's a possible subrogation. And
Right.
I don't care. Like I gave them the information and let them run with it. Following that,
and that's our job, right?
well, sure. Yeah, it's all education. It's making sure that people are comfortable with what we have found and what the damage is, why the damage is occurring. And so following that, I started to get some other claims that were more like re-inspections. They were a little more complicated, things that were a little more in the judgment call arena. Like I had a floor that had this, it was a beautiful floor. It had 14-inch wide by like 1 inch thick, these hard pine planks. And it was really cool. And there was a water leak, and one of them had kind of the 14-inch wide plank had split a little bit. But I'm like, let me look at that. And the split went like all the way like 15 feet away from the sink. And I'm looking in there, and there's dust in the crack. So I'm like, this has been there a while. The water didn't help it any. It probably made it swell or, exacerbated it a bit, but they were trying to replace the whole floor. And I was like, I think there's another way to go about this. And so ultimately I gave the insurance company some options about how they could remedy that. And I think that it helped them open a discussion that they didn't have before. So,
right.
So anyway, it's just a couple of examples of, I started to get more of those types, and it became a lot of fun to be sent out on some of these kind of quirky claims and
right? And they're all quirky, and they're even more quirky today after Helene and Milton, right?
there's a lot of quirky.
Yeah,
Well, I got a few
yeah.
quirky and a lot of pretty big ones.
In
So
fact, hold on one second. I'm gonna show you a. Hold on. Let me minimize that. I want to show you something. This is gonna blow your mind.
okay,
I'll share my screen. Check that out, dude.
in the world,
What do you think that is?
that's a dumpster.
That's a dumpster.
Wow,
That's a
that is
freaking
impressive.
20-yard dumpster on top of a roof,
That's crazy. All
right?
right.
So, so can you imagine being a new guy? I mean, and I'm talking like 3
Yeah,
years, 4 years adjuster to
sure.
drive up to a house and see that on top of the house,
You're like, they are never going to believe this right up.
right? And so if you look around like on the siding and all the rest of it, this
Sure.
obviously it seems to me to be a tornado,
Right.
right?
Yep.
But that's a lot of freaking wind to pick up a 20-yard dumpster and set it down on a roof.
Yeah, those things are they never fail to impress me with how powerful they are. It just is it's
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah. Somebody sent that to me today. I was like, "Holy crap!" And
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff. Whether you're a brand new adjuster or whether you're an experienced adjuster, but that's the kind of weird stuff that's gonna um, be happening out there in Helene and certainly Milton. I'm
Yeah.
really glad my godson lives just off the water and outside of St. Pete.
Okay.
And the way the storm hit last night, it was pushing water out of the Bay of Tampa. I don't know if you noticed that,
I heard
but
that.
right. So like
Um,
Bradenton, Sarasota, all
yeah,
the
I
rest
heard
of
that.
those things, the surge was 3 to 5, 6, 7 feet, but actual
Yeah.
Bay of Tampa was -2 feet. Plus, it came in at on a low tide. So when he got back to his house
Okay.
today, he was like, "I don't have electricity or water, but I didn't flood." So, um,
Yeah.
but there's going to be
That's super fortunate. Yeah.
yeah, the thing with that whole storm around Tampa is Tampa's never got hit, right? Because they kept talking about it. This is the first time in 100 years, which means that
Okay.
all those roofs are going to be 20, 30, 40 years old, and they're going to be, you know, damaged. If
For
you go
sure.
down to Orlando where they've replaced roofs every year, it'd be something different. But
Right. Yeah, they're
um,
fresh and strong.
yeah,
Yeah, these ones are fatigued and
so
sun beaten and
there's
yeah,
there's
they're
gonna
gonna
there's gonna be a lot of work for them out there for sure.
okay. Those are
So hey, part of the reason I'm doing this, Rich, is you called me a little while ago.
mhm.
Let me step back real quick. How many how many IA firms were you working for before this storm hit?
I was I was working with one directly, or sorry, well, working with in communication with three total.
Uh huh.
And so I had two that I was actively in conversations with. I was on their deployment roster, getting paperwork done, making sure that I am good to go. And then one that I was actively running claims for Helene.
Uh huh.
Um, and that was, so a lot of that's happening simultaneously. So, but yeah, three is the answer.
Gotcha. And so when you and I talk today,
Mhm.
um, you have an opportunity to go with a different firm.
I do. Yeah.
Um, and the firm that you're with, we won't go deep into it, but
Yeah.
you know, you had a you had a not so nice manager, let's just say.
I can, I mean, I can capture it. There's probably a lot of people out there that it'll resonate with, but it's, I mean, been going on a little over a week. I have 900 miles on my truck, and because I've been driving between claims,
Right.
all over North Carolina. I'm running. I was able to get. I'm averaging about three a day. Uh, Not necessarily closing all three because some of them are really big and fairly complicated, but I'm inspecting three on average and closing a bunch. So fatigue is setting in. It's like there's a
Right.
lot, there's typos, there's things that you miss. Maybe you got a macro that says hip roof and it was actually a gable roof and you forget to change it. Little stuff, right?
Right.
But and so I had a manager who kind of wrote me and was like kind of calling me out on a few of those. But instead of like kind of pulling me aside, going, "Hey, you doing all right, man? Like I'm noticing a couple of trends with some errors. I want to make sure everything's okay because you're out there killing it." He put me on blast, and it was to me and all
Wow.
of the other desk adjusters, and was basically like, well, clearly you didn't read this, and I've been noticing a lot of errors that are like like they're rudimentary errors, and there are things I shouldn't have made an error, but fatigue's fatigue,
Right.
right? So, and I'll own it, like it happens. And and I was like, well, I mean, it's one thing to go, hey man, you all right? Like I'm seeing some errors I haven't seen from you in the past. Just checking on you, make sure everything's okay.
Right.
Versus like you're like you need to tighten up your shot group type of thing and make sure that you're checking everything you're supposed to be checking. And I was like, okay, all right, I see how this works.
Right. And that email's going out to all the managers, the dispatchers, all the rest of that
Yeah,
kind of stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
it's
And
a lot of people. Yeah,
and like we talked about on the phone, so I'm gonna repeat it here.
sure.
It's a catastrophe
That's right.
from us on the field to the CEO of the insurance company. And
Right.
a lot of these um side note, I got asked to be a storm manager for this storm and I turned it down. But
Yeah.
a lot of these storm managers are guys like me that have been in the business for 20 years,
That's right.
right? And maybe they're a little gruff or they don't have very good communication skills or people skills
Yeah.
because they were always a field adjuster. They never had to manage people and they
That's
never
right.
had to explain to somebody to try to make them better by just like you said, if he would have called you up and said, "Hey, man, look at this. Yeah, you got some problems here. I need you to fix." You would have
Yeah.
been on it. You would have written it down. You would have never forgot it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's yeah, because
But
nobody tries to make mistakes. Like I'm not trying. But and if someone goes, "Hey man, I'm noticing this," it's like, "Oh dang, I didn't know that I was really doing that." I will pay more attention to that to make sure that it's not a
correct,
thing.
correct.
And
But I tell you,
yeah,
what's going to happen, brother, out there is there's going to be a lot of them managers.
that's
So
true.
everybody that's sitting out there, anybody that's listening to this, if you get ragged on by a file reviewer or manager, just say okay and move on.
Yeah.
Because to let that get into your brain, you're going to spend 3 hours. Well, I don't know how long did we spend on the phone? I had to talk you off the ledge for 20 minutes. I
It
thought you were going
was
to drive off a cliff, Rich. I wasn't sure.
it was
No.
yeah.
I knew you weren't there. But I spend a lot of time on the phone, literally just talking about the
Mhm.
same stuff
I
and
believe it.
there's nothing we can do about somebody else's personality.
That's
All
true.
we can do is pay attention to what we're doing. If they rag us or whatever, you just say fine and you leave. If,
Yeah.
like in your instance, right?
Mhm.
If that is a deal breaker to work for that company because we are our own people,
Mhm.
then you call them up or send them an email and say, look, I need you to turn me off.
Right.
I will finish it. How many do you have in your box now from them?
Maybe I just got one this evening, so maybe 10 or 11, maybe.
Great. So
So
you can't go anywhere until those 10 or 11 are done. Period.
that's
End of
right.
story. Even if
Yep.
even if you turn off, you own those claims because they got to your box.
That's right.
So,
Yep.
you double check in the morning, say, am I turned off? Great. I need you to turn me off. When those are done, or when you get close to being done with those, then you can call these other companies that that have been calling you to ask you to go down to Florida.
That's right.
Say, okay, I'm a week before I can get these 11 closed. I can turn on with you, October 24th or whatever the date is,
Right.
and then get back in touch with them on the 22nd, 23rd, something like that. And
Yep.
then by the time you're ready, you'll have new claims. The other thing that you can do is ask them to send you the profiles, the guidelines. So
Yep.
in between what you're doing right now, you'll be able to make cheat sheets, figure out how this company operates, get all your profiles set up and all of your grouping tree, all the rest of that kind of stuff set up. So
That's right.
you can literally be able to hit the ground running and switch. But
Yep.
you're your own guy. You own your own business.
Well, and it's important for people to understand that uh, you need to create your own options. And I think for your own mental well-being in this business, you're an independent adjuster, and people need to understand that they need to actually embrace that. That's probably a better way to say it, is you need to embrace the fact that you are an independent adjuster. And if a company is fine for you're starting to work with them and they're fine, and then they kind of pivot on you and now they're not fine, you need to make sure that you have options where you can go, this isn't working for me anymore. I appreciate the time with you guys, but like you said, turn me off, finish your claims, and move on to somebody else. Because that is the beauty of this career, is that is the business, is that you're independent. You have that choice, but you have to create those choices for yourself. You have to have people waiting to receive you, and
waiting to receive you is the perfect word, right?
Yeah.
So I was just going to say, if you would have turned that email around in all capital letters, you should be nice to me, you're talking mean to me, or whatever else, you wake up the next day and those 11 files got reassigned.
That's right.
And now you got nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
And now what? Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So just saying, yes, sir, let me do it, and moving on. And when the other opportunity arises, and it might not be to the end of the storm, you might run another 100 claims for, those folks, but you're out making money, you're running claims. Get that done before you make that shift. So many people, I hear it all the time, and I saw it all the time when I was in the field. Somebody gets mad and it's all capital letters, and then they're sitting around and I don't think there was a guy. No, he wasn't in your class. He was the class before.
Okay.
Right. So he goes out and he signs up for 4 or 5 different rosters, and nobody calls him back. And so about a month later, he all capital letters writes to them, "It is not professional of you not to return my emails." And I'm like, dude, you just blew it with all 5 of those companies.
My gosh. Oh my gosh.
He's working today, but I mean, you've got to really be paying attention because it's your business.
Oh, and for sure.
Sometimes you just have to suck it up and keep moving. And sometimes when you have opportunity like you did, because you already have other people because of the storm wanting you. But the big thing I could say is you can't leave until those claims, those 11 you have, are done.
Well, that's a professionalism issue.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And so and I put that in the email when I told him. I said, I responded to him, and all caps, that's not my style. So I was just more like, thanks for the advice. Go ahead, go ahead and turn me off. I'm going to finish these claims, and then I'll finish these claims before I depart, or something like that. Now, if they decide to
Guaranteed,
reassign me to
guaranteed
something,
you're gonna get it. Guaranteed you're gonna get a phone call tomorrow from that manager. Hey man, it was all
yeah,
okay. It was no, and all you gotta say is like, look, it wasn't about that,
yeah,
although it
it
was,
was,
or it could have been, right? Sort of, but it wasn't about that. It was
yeah,
just that I have this other opportunity that I've been exploring, and now it's opened up for me. So
yeah,
thank you so much. I really loved working for you, and just
yeah.
smother them with kindness as you're walking out the door. You
That's
know,
and
I,
you always have to leave on a high note.
you do.
It's well, I mean, it is as an independent adjuster, it is in your best interest to leave on a high note. And I firmly believe that because you don't want to burn bridges if you can help it. And this is clearly one of those that, yeah, this guy kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I do have options. So I'm like, okay, you know what? We're fine. Let me just close these out.
Correct.
I want to learn how to work in Florida anyway. They've got a different set of rules. It's professional development for me.
Correct.
Another learning curve. That'll be great. Working for another whole group of, an insurance group. Oh, it's professional development.
Yeah.
So that is an opportunity.
Remember that when the guy calls you tomorrow. Starts kissing your butt, right?
That's right.
Tell him exactly that. It'll
That's
work
right.
perfectly.
That's right. It's like, sorry, I can't pass up this opportunity. And,
Yeah, this
you
just it.
know,
I did when so without mentioning the IA firm, I probably could because I still love them. But one of the biggest, I worked for 7 years,
okay.
and the first time I left and went to work for somebody else, they weren't happy, but they didn't say anything.
Right.
And then I did it again, and they were like, "We don't know." And the third time I did it, the dispatcher called me up and she said, "You know what? You will never work for us again." And I knew it when I did it.
Right.
But the other opportunity, back to what you're talking about, professional development, I was able to move up from, an adjuster that was getting X amount of claims to being a commercial adjuster and getting double claims and knowing I was first call for every storm that went out. So for me, that as sad as it was, I had to do it. And I wrote her a really, really long email just
Mhm.
thanking profusely for all of the opportunities that they gave me.
Sure.
But I had to move, so I moved,
Yeah.
and it was that company that I moved to that the managers of that company became our first partners when we started the school, because
See?
they had
Yeah.
just left that company and started their own IA firm, and
Okay.
it's just I was able by that transition to move more into management and to get to understand and know managers, which is why we had 50 partners, right? Just because
Right.
I was able to make that transition where, as with the other company being one of the largest in the country, I
Mhm.
was always going to be that you're a really good adjuster, we'll send you on storms, but I was never going to be, oh, here's, I never got the phone call from the CEO. Let's put it that way.
I understand. Yeah.
You
And
know, so
and only like you're the only one that can determine that for yourself. And
correct.
so, like for me, I've held management positions in the past. It's not really something I'm interested in right now. So I would be more of I'm looking for technical proficiency. I'm looking for things that are spark my interest as an adjuster, kind of the weird stuff, right?
Right.
And so if there were opportunities to do that, that would be super interesting and
Yeah.
something I would pursue. But
Yeah.
but that's me. So again, the beauty of this position and this job, this industry is that there are so many of those types of things. And
Yeah. Totally.
yeah,
Yeah. Excuse me. One of the things that comes up for me, and then we'll end this conversation so it doesn't go on for 3 hours because I know we could talk forever.
oh,
But
we totally could.
right, the the big thing that I'm seeing, and I see it every single storm, and I drill it into you guys' heads in class and everything else, is this isn't about the money, right?
Right.
Just because if I got 20 claims from a company and the fee schedule's okay, it's not the greatest, but it's okay. And the other company calls me up and tells me, I'm going to pay you $5,000 to come with me and I'll give you 70%. If I burn that bridge on that first company, I don't know that the managers of that company aren't going to then be over at the new company I'm going to.
Right.
And when that guy moves over and he sees my name, all of a sudden I'm going to wonder why I'm not getting any more claims when I thought that was going to be a great thing. So
Yeah.
it's critically important that you make a commitment when you get the claims in your box. If you don't like it, you can call and turn off, but you have to finish what's in your box from that company before you move on. If you do that, whether they're sad that you left or not, you lived up to your commitment to them, and that's really what they're looking for. And that manager going over to the other thing would say, you know what, that guy just bailed on me, but he finished all of his claims.
But he did, yeah, and he did a good job with it. Like,
correct,
you did. So yeah, you finished him. You did a good job. Like, you're right. Like, that should be table stakes. Like, if you're going to move, that's the arrangement, and you do a great job with those. And answer any questions, be available to answer questions even after, because they do come back.
Yeah.
Hey, not a problem. That's professionalism 101.
Correct.
And then you pursue that other opportunity, and you make it clear, like you said, that it's, it's not you, it's me. I'm moving on to something else that is, developing me as an adjuster, and this is important to me.
Even if it is you.
Even if it is them. Never tell them that.
It's not you, it's me. Right?
And then hopefully that bridge stays intact, because like you said, it is a large industry, but a small community, and people talk, and that's the last thing you want is somebody to go, I know that guy. I don't appreciate how he left my company.
Yep. Yep. And this is happening, and anybody that's listening, there will be a bunch of people listening to this. Cool. If you were running day claims and you were getting a steady flow of day claims and you just bailed and told them to reassign those 8 claims that you had so you could run down to Milton, good luck when you get back.
That is.
Yeah, because you just burnt the bridge. So remember Kodiak in your class?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Right? 21 years old, youngest person that's ever come to this school. Okay. He's running about 10 to 12 claims a week in LA right now.
That is
right.
That's substantial.
Golden.
Like, that's fantastic.
Golden. Yeah. His dad I trained back at Katrina.
Okay.
Right? I trained his grandparents.
Okay.
And they're all like, you got to go to Storm. This is going to be so much money. It's going to be the greatest storm in the world.
All right.
He was like, you know what? He talked to his manager, and his manager said, Kodiak, if you stay, I will be able to give you way more claims, and I really need you.
That's exactly the answer.
And he's like, fine. And so, when I'm talking to him the other day, I'm like, well, how much you making a week, dude?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know, like $3,000 a week. And man, the kid was like a $20 an hour tree trimmer, right? Before he started.
Right.
So $3,000 a week to him is like golden. And he's just beside himself. And he knows, because of the company he's working for, he's building reputation.
Yes.
He stayed, he helped them.
Yeah.
And next year, if he decides he wants to run Storm and he tells them in advance, hey, when the hurricane hits or when the hailstorm hits, I want to run with you.
Yeah.
He'll be on first call. They'll figure out how to take care of wherever his area is prior to, and he'll move on. But yeah.
That's we actually from our class we have a text chat group that we stay in, and so he mentioned that in the chat group, and I was like, that's actually pretty smart, because storms are storms, man, and they're not going to stop.
There's always going to be another one.
There's always going to be there's always going to be another one. And so for him to again build that reputation with them, give them that sense of trust in him, like that'll pay dividends later, and he can run the next storm. It's not that big a deal.
There's always going to be another storm.
For sure.
And the way that they're going nowadays, they're just getting worse. It's really
Isn't
sad.
it?
It's really sad to see. I mean, Helene, never in my career I've seen. So in 2011, when the Joplin, Missouri tornado hit,
Right.
nobody knew
Right.
there were 250 tornadoes that hit the ground that day. Right. So there were little towns all over Tennessee and Arkansas and everything else that got wiped out by that storm, but nobody ever
Wow.
heard about them.
Okay.
But this thing with Helene was so vast and so huge that, you know, how many people did I send to Tennessee? How many did I send to North Carolina? And yeah, they're in Asheville, but what about all the ones that are in Charlotte? And what about all the ones that are in South Carolina? And what about there's the the magnitude and the area of that storm was just unbelievable. And
Yeah,
then,
I was I ran some claims up today. There's a lake like I'm on this side, I'm between Asheville and Charlotte right now, and there was a lake, forget the lake, can't remember. It was like it came through, it was 8 feet deep. It wrecked everything really, really bad. And it's totally unexpected because you're in North Carolina. Like that
yeah,
doesn't happen inland North Carolina, and everyone, it's devastation and very like it's stuff that if you're not here seeing it firsthand, it doesn't make national news. It doesn't,
right.
Asheville made national news, obviously, but like you're saying, a lot of these smaller ones, they are horrific tragedies. Never hear about them.
Yeah,
Really, really unfortunate. So,
yeah. And the whole media stuff, and it's, there is no way FEMA, the federal government, or even the state government could have planned or understood what was about to happen. I mean, whether that's North Carolina or Georgia,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
it was like my son's down in Vodesta, Georgia. I think it's down like the Florida border.
Okay.
Town of 50,000 people.
Okay.
That when Helene went over their head, it was still a category 2. So
Okay.
that entire town, 400 miles from the coast, 500 miles from the coast, is just like trees everywhere.
Right.
Was it you that sent me the picture of the tree that split the house in half?
Did I say? I don't think so, but
A
I've
week
got
or
one.
so ago. I think you did. I think you just texted me when it was like,
Yeah, I did.
"Oh my God, this is my 4th claim" or something like
That's
that.
that's the one you told me that they may have. It was a large canopy.
Right.
The trunk diameter on that thing was 44 inches, and this house, it was a 1950s house. They got super lucky that the trunk fell in the driveway, so all of the damage to the house was all canopy. And there were still like some pretty good branches, so it took some damage, but nothing like the destruction if that trunk would have hit it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that was
Yeah.
me. You're right.
Yeah. And you can't inspect that until the tree's gone because you can't see underneath the canopy.
No, I couldn't. And I wrote it up. I was able to see enough that I could figure out basically the areas of damage. And so I'm like, look, this whole area is, the sheathing's going to have to be replaced. And I talked through it that way.
Right.
And I turned it in yesterday. And so we'll see what they come back with. But I already warned them, hey, you're probably going to want to reinspect this.
Yeah.
So,
Or this is the supplement on this is going to be huge.
yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
part of your job right now being out there is to do the best you can with what you got and get
Right.
money in those people's hands.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you said, oh, I'll come back in 2 weeks after the canopy's gone without writing an estimate and getting something going as best you could.
I'm ballparking. Like I'm
Yeah,
like,
totally.
this is about what's going on. I think I'm pretty close, but it's a ballpark.
Right.
And a contractor's going to come in and be like, oh, he missed this part or missed that part. And I'll be like, well, yeah, there was a tree there, man. Come on, give me some slack.
Exactly. And that'll go back to reinspection or, and
Yep.
even you couldn't have gotten enough good photos because the canopy's there.
No, it was tough. Yeah.
Right.
So,
But at least you got enough money in the people's hands that they can go and hire that contractor So he can come back and then call for a reinspection once the tree's gone, and then be able to work it from there for sure.
That's right. Get that process started. Yep.
Yeah. Man, there's so much. This is going to be such a cool podcast, Rich. I'm like digging it. Thank you for doing this with me, man.
Hey, I'm pretty stoked for you. This is I can't wait to watch this and to see other people in the industry that, they've all got information to share, and there's tons of things that I've got questions, and and there's a lot of stuff that I don't even know that I've got questions about until I hear people talk about it, and I go, yeah, how does that work? What do you do in that situation, or what? And so I am super happy that you're putting this together, and you're going to have great people on to share that knowledge, and we can crowdsource this stuff, man. We can all get better as a result.
Exactly. I believe that to be true too. Yeah. And I'm really thankful for Matt Allen from Adjuster TV. I think I told you, I went up to his place up in Montana and sat with him, and we did a bunch of these. His podcast room is much better than mine. He has nice lights and microphones, and
you'll get there.
Stuff. Yeah, I will one of these days. But he's actually going to be the one. He'll put this up on Adjuster TV because he already has that crowdsourcing network already, and so
sure.
When I talked to him about it yesterday, he was like, "Guy, do it. Do as much of it as you can." And I got 350 of you guys that have gone through in the last 12 years, so I got plenty of stories to tell, and you guys all have plenty of stories now.
I can't wait to hear them. It's going to be great.
Right on. Brother, thank you so much. Be safe out there.
I'll do my best.
Drink lots of water. Don't forget your monkey butt.
That's right.
All that good stuff.
Right. It's horrible. Yeah. So, yep. I'm heading to Asheville tomorrow. So I've got about a half dozen claims in that area, and they're all contacted, so they're waiting on me. But it should be very interesting getting up there and helping those people out. So
right on. Cool, brother. Be safe. And for those of you that are watching, I'm hoping I'm going to have another one of these in the next couple days, because I got lots of guys with good stories. So be well out there. Be safe. All right.
All right. Thanks,
Take
guys.
care, everybody.
Want to get a complete guide on how to become an independent adjuster? Go ahead and click right here.